So this is an update to an earlier bird dog video that I made. I'd like to just clarify some points for the more acute patient and for some of the ways I've seen this exercise being done when it comes back into clinic. There's a lot of over-enthusiasm, I think, in the whole stretching up, being very upright with it, and that's fine, but when we have very acutely painful or sensitized spines, the beauty of this exercise is it creates the least amount of torque through your spine and the most amount of bracing, and it can be pain relieving. It should be pain relieving if done right. So to get straight into it then, you've got to think of yourself a little bit like a table with 4 legs. So have your knees stacked directly underneath your hips, and that means width-wise as well. So you might be a little bit wider than you initially thought, and the same, try to gauge it so that your hands are directly underneath your shoulders. And to start with, you just are going to slide the toes of one leg out and just don't disengage just yet. Okay, so just make sure you can obtain this position without too much pain. Now, in very acute cases, you might be getting to here and then coming back, and that's fine. Okay, but we're hopefully going to take you a little bit further than that. So sliding your toes out and then just disengage by about an inch. That's going to feel like quite hard work. And then I want you to check into your hands and see, where's my weight distributed? And you're probably going to find that one hand has sort of become a bit redundant, the opposite hand to the leg that's outstretched. So then you should be able to disengage and just slide that hand forwards and hover about an inch off the floor. And just look somewhere just ahead of you. Fix your gaze. And you're going to hold for no longer than 10 seconds. I know I've held for longer than that just to demonstrate. And then you're going to slide back. Okay? And what we want you to do is develop endurance in these muscles, because these are not muscles designed for power. We don't need strong backs to beat back pain. We need endurance in our spinal muscles, and we need power and strength in our hips. So ultimately then, we're going to go through a 6-4-2 pyramid. So that means you're going to extend, disengage from the floor, slide out, disengage from the floor, hold for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, you're going to come back in. Your rest will be minimal, and you'll go straight back out again. And then you'll come back in, and you'll do that 6 times in one consecutive diagonal. You'll then repeat that on the opposite diagonal, again for 6 sets of 10. For you, it might be 2 sets of 10 to start with, and you'll build it up slowly. But ultimately, we want to build you to 6 sets of 10-second holds in one diagonal and then in the other. Then you'll take a 20-second rest, and then you'll go into 4 sets of 10 on each diagonal, a 20-second rest, and then 2 sets of 10 on consecutive diagonals. Okay, so a word on rests then. Because we are trying to build up endurance, we're keeping the challenge going, but we're not trying to hold it for as long as we can, because that it might just cause some problems. We don't really want to be holding bird dog for a minute or more. We need to allow a little bit of time for venous return, so the muscles are never getting too overworked and too toxic. The rest is absolutely minimal. So when you've done your 10 seconds here, just coming back to this position and going straight back out again is sufficient rest. But when you get good at this, and it starts to feel a bit boring and a bit easy, your rest can progress to something they call sweeping the floor, where you just take one knee to your hand and come straight back out again. So it's a relative rest, but it's just enough to allow that little bit of venous return in the muscles that we're most trying to work. Okay, so it'll be 10 seconds. That's not a made-up number, that's a researched evidence number. Relative rest, or just come back to your 4-point position for total rest, but then straight back out again. Okay. There are other progressions to bird dog, a lot of which are not necessary for this video, but an example might be when you're in your hold position, you can push out through the heel, make a fist. There's also the idea of doing little squares or doing little circles. I don't even tend to do those, and this is part of my daily ritual. So for me, I would tend to sweep the floor, come straight back out, and do a 6-4-2 pyramid set. Okay. If you need to check your form, you can place a book or have somebody place a book on the small of your back. But honestly, as long as you're sliding your foot out, sliding your hand out, then disengaging, your form shouldn't be a problem. But if you're doing a little bit too much twisting through the pelvis or a little bit too much lifting through the shoulder, then eventually the book will fall off and you'll have an indication that I'm losing my form there. Okay, so that's just a little bit of clarification on what I consider to be the best form for bird dog and the objectives of bird dog being endurance at the moment. Okay.